Welcome back to another lesson in the 5 Foundational Techniques of Rock Drumming series. I'm Nate Brown. The series is brought to you by Drum Magazine and OnlineDrummer.com. In the last lesson, we covered the basic 8th beat technique. In this lesson, we're going to still be playing 8th beat, but we're going to be adding additional snares or moving the snare. If you haven't already, check out my new book, Chart-Topping Drum Beats, the 60s through today. There are a lot of examples of the snare movement technique and coordination exercises, as well as examples of how it's used in chart-topping songs. You can get the sheet music for this lesson at OnlineDrummer.com. The first snare movement technique that we're going to explore is called the additional snare technique. That's keeping the snare on 2 and 4 like we had it in the last lesson, but adding another stroke. The first pattern we're going to do, we're going to add it after the 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. This hand pattern was really popular in the 60s with that surf music craze. I'll play number 1 for you. In the last lesson, I talked about an easy way to read this using the vertical technique. You just line up each count and play what lines up vertically. So on count 1, we've got a bass and a hi-hat. The and, just the hi-hat. Count 2, snare, bass, and hi-hat. The and of 2, hi-hat and snare. And just keep going that way, making sure that all the 8th notes on your right stick or left, if you're using your left, stay consistent. One and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Number 2 gives an example of snare displacement, and that's when you move the snare stroke away from the 2 or 4, or maybe even both. This technique gives it a syncopated feel. It's used a lot in funk music. So you can hear we've got the focus on 2 and 4. Move it to the and. I'll play number 2 for you, which is actually the intro groove for Beast of Burden by the Rolling Stones. And again, just line up the strokes, and I'll play this slowly for you. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The rest of the sheet music leaves the snare part blank, and that's so you can explore some of your own ideas for either moving the snare or displacing the snare. Use a pencil while you do this, maybe even sit behind the kit while you're writing so you can try out the beats and make changes as you go. The next lesson in this series goes over 16th phrasing on the bass, and remember to check out my book, Chart-Topping Drum Beats, the 60s through today. See you in the next lesson. Keep drumming.